Welcome to Unbound American Stories, the channel where we uncover the lives of our forgotten heroes. We list the sources of the information we found in the notes to help you dig deeper into their life and accomplishments for those who would like to learn more. And now for an amazing story. J.P. Morgan, the banker who built America. Picture this. It's 1907, and the United States is on the brink of economic collapse. Banks are failing. The stock market is in freefall. Panicked crowds are lining up outside financial institutions, demanding their money. The government is powerless to stop it. Then, one man steps in. His name is John Pierpont Morgan, and he's not a politician, a general, or a president. He's a banker, a 60-year-old financier with a bulbous nose, piercing eyes, and a reputation for getting what he wants. Over the next 3 weeks, Morgan will single-handedly save the U.S. economy from disaster. He'll lock the country's most powerful bankers in his library, refuse to let them leave until they agree to a plan, and personally pledge millions of his own dollars to restore confidence. This is the story of how one man, flawed, brilliant, and relentless, shaped the modern American economy. It's a story of power, ambition, and the price of greatness, and it starts not with a bang, but with a scandal. John Pierpont Morgan was born on April 17, 1837, into a world of privilege and expectation. His father, Junius Spencer Morgan, was a successful banker, and young Pierpont grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, surrounded by wealth, influence, and the weight of legacy. But Morgan's childhood wasn't all silver spoons and ease. He was a sickly child, suffering from rheumatic fever at age 14. A condition that left him with chronic health problems and a lifelong struggle with depression. He was brilliant but shy, excelling in mathematics but dreading public attention. At 17, his father sent him to Europe to complete his education. He studied in Switzerland and Germany, became fluent in French and German, and developed a passion for art and culture. But his real education came in the world of finance. By the time he returned to the U.S. in 1857, he was ready to make his mark. And he did, almost immediately. Morgan's first major deal was daring, unethical, and nearly ruined him. In 1861, as the Civil War raged, the U.S. government was desperate for weapons. Morgan saw an opportunity. He bought 5,000 rifles from a New York arsenal for $350 each, defective rifles, with a reputation for misfiring. He then sold them to a Union general for $22 each, netting a handsome profit. The rifles failed in battle. Soldiers were injured. The scandal exploded. Morgan was publicly humiliated. His father bailed him out, but the damage was done. The episode taught Morgan a lesson. Reputation was everything. From then on, he avoided shady deals, but he never shied away from risk. By the 1870s, Morgan was one of the most powerful bankers in New York. His firm, Drexel, Morgan & Company, became the go-to financier for railroads, governments, and industrialists. But Morgan wasn't just a banker. He was a visionary. He saw a fragmented, chaotic economy and believed he could fix it. His first target? Railroads. In the late 1800s, railroads were the backbone of the American economy, but they were also a disaster. Dozens of companies competed ruthlessly, slashing prices, duplicating tracks, and driving each other into bankruptcy. Investors lost fortunes. The system was unsustainable. Morgan had a solution: consolidation. He began buying up failing railroads, merging them into larger, more efficient systems. In 1885, he saved the New York Central Railroad from collapse. In 1893, he reorganized the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad. By the early 1900s, he controlled half of all U.S. railroad mileage. But his biggest move was yet to come. In 1892, Morgan merged two electric companies, Thomas Edison's Edison General Electric and Thomson Houston Electric, to form General Electric, GE. It was one of the most important corporate mergers in history. At the time, electricity was still new. Most homes were lit by gas lamps. Factories ran on steam power. Morgan saw the future, and he bet everything on it. GE became a powerhouse, driving innovation in lighting, appliances, and industrial machinery. Today, its legacy lives on in everything from light bulbs to jet engines. Morgan's reputation as America's financial savior began in 1893. The U.S. economy was collapsing. Railroads were failing. Banks were closing. The federal government was running out of gold, threatening to destroy the dollar. President Grover Cleveland turned to Morgan. Morgan gathered a syndicate of bankers and loaned the U.S. government $65 million in gold, enough to stabilize the Treasury. It was a brilliant, controversial move. Critics accused him of holding the government hostage. But the truth was simple. No one else could have done it. Morgan had saved the economy, but this wouldn't be the last time. 14 years later, history repeated itself. In October 1907, the Knickerbocker Trust Company, one of New York's largest banks, collapsed. Panic spread. Runs on banks erupted across the country. The stock market plummeted. Once again, the government was powerless. So Morgan took charge. He locked the country's top bankers in his library, refusing to let them leave until they agreed to a rescue plan. He pledged $25 million of his own money to stabilize the banks. He convinced John D. Rockefeller to contribute another $10 million. Within 3 weeks, the panic was over. Morgan had saved the U.S. economy again. But this time, the backlash was fierce. Critics accused him of wielding too much power. The government vowed to never rely on a private banker again. They would soon get their chance to fight back. Morgan's greatest industrial achievement came in 1901. At the time, Andrew Carnegie dominated the steel industry. But Carnegie was tired of the business. He wanted to retire and focus on philanthropy. Morgan saw his chance. He bought Carnegie Steel for $480 million, over $16 billion today, and merged it with several other companies to form U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in history. At its founding, U.S. Steel controlled 60% of U.S. steel production. It was a monster, employing 168,000 people and shaping the industrial future of America. But Morgan's dominance wouldn't last. In 1901, Morgan tried to monopolize the railroads by creating the Northern Securities Company, a holding company that controlled the Northern Pacific, Great Northern, and Burlington railroads. It was a bold move, too bold. In 1902, President Theodore Roosevelt sued to break up the company, arguing it violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. The case went to the Supreme Court, which ruled against Morgan in 1904. It was a humiliating defeat. For the first time, the government had successfully challenged Morgan's power. It marked the beginning of the end for his unchecked influence. By 1912, Morgan's power had grown too vast for politicians to ignore. Congress launched an investigation into financial monopolies, led by Arsène Pujol. The committee grilled Morgan for weeks, accusing him of controlling the U.S. economy. Morgan's famous response to a question about credit became legendary. "No, sir. The first thing is character. Before money or property. Before money or anything else. Money cannot buy it." The committee's final report didn't declare a single money trust, but it did find evidence of concentrated financial power. The government tightened regulations, and the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, without Morgan's support. Morgan spent his last years traveling, collecting art, and defending his legacy. He died on March 31st, 1913, in Rome, at the age of 75. His death made headlines worldwide. The New York Stock Exchange closed for 2 hours in his honor, the first time it had ever done so for a private citizen. But his legacy was far from settled. To some, he was a visionary, a man who saved the economy, built industries, and created jobs. To others, he was a robber baron, a symbol of unchecked capitalism. More than a century after his death, Morgan's influence is everywhere. J.P. Morgan Chase, the bank he founded, is now the largest in the U.S. and played a central role in stabilizing the economy during the 2008 financial crisis, much like Morgan in 1907. The Federal Reserve, which he opposed, now regulates the banking system he once dominated. The Morgan Library and Museum remains one of the greatest cultural treasures in New York. And the debate over corporate power, whether companies like Amazon, Google, or Apple are too big, echoes the same arguments made about Morgan a century ago. Morgan's story is a reminder of how one person's ambition can reshape the world. It's a story of risk, power, and the price of greatness. And it's a warning about what happens when power goes unchecked. So the next time you flip a light switch, take a train, or check your bank account, remember, JP Morgan helped build the system that makes it all possible. And that's a legacy no one can ignore. Thank you for watching. Our goal at Unbound American Stories is to share the amazing stories of those that came before us but have been forgotten over time. We will tell their stories, focusing on not only their accomplishments, but on their lives and challenges they overcame to achieve greatness. If you enjoyed this episode and want to learn about other forgotten American heroes, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Who should we uncover next? Did we miss an important fact? Did we get something wrong? Do you know more about today's hero that you would like to share? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep the flame of curiosity alive.